Pierce County Prosecutor's Office has indicated that they are not filing charges. Shawn Kemp was released. He was arrested on Wednesday and he was released on Thursday, so the next day. But it's not just an outright, okay, so he's done, he's in the clear, because the investigation is still pending. And so the Pierce County Prosecutor's Office was pretty clear, and they said that charges could still be filed. Some of you might be prepared to react physically for stealing your personal belongings. If you watched the last live, we talked about acting with violence to a situation in which you feel disrespect, because that's such a common theme when it comes to assault cases, when it comes to shootings, stabbings. In many of those situations, it's because a person felt like they were disrespected. And to steal from somebody is very disrespectful. But the thing is, you have to keep in mind is that you can't just run up on someone and beat them up because they stole your iPhone or they stole your iPad or your MacBook Pro. This is another one of those situations where you might feel justified personally because they took from you and you get to teach them a lesson. And in the game of life, might it be justified? Perhaps, but legally it's not. If that were to happen, you go and beat somebody up because they stole something from you and someone calls 911, catches you, and the police catch you in the act or catch you after the fact, you are going to be facing assault charges. And you having been stolen from might provide some context for your actions, but it's not going to be a legal justification. These are the type of things that we want to continue to communicate in terms of providing information that people don't always just readily know. The more information that we can get out there, the more people know their rights, then this channel is definitely serving its purpose. It's like the cliche that they say, things can be replaced, but we can't. What if when Shawn Kemp went and ran up on these dudes, or I don't know if it's multiple people or just one, what if one of those shots would have hit him and Shawn Kemp lost his life over an iPhone and a couple of personal items? How tragic of a loss would that be? But it happens. Those type of things happen. I mean, we just had the trial of XXX That's a tongue twister. Yeah, where he got smoked over like $50,000 or $60,000. So when it comes to a confrontation, it just is not worth it trying to meet aggression with somebody who has nothing to lose. The person who is prepared to steal from you in that way, be armed, they have nothing to lose. And if you have something to lose, I just can't see how that could possibly be worth it. So the interesting thing is, and would be a good question, is whether Shawn Kemp does he just normally roll around strapped, or did he grab his heat just in case there was some sort of confrontation? Because again, this is a relatively unique situation in which you are actually able to track down the person that you believe stole from you. And I think either way could make sense. I'm not familiar with Washington gun laws and whether you can just roll around. Probably tend to believe that you cannot, simply because it's not Texas, right? It's not Texas, not Tennessee, Mississippi. I would think probably up in Washington, the gun laws are more strict, right? But if he went and he was armed for that reason, then you already know going into it, there's a possibility of something escalating in that way. And again, I don't know what was in his bag. There are certain things that are priceless, and perhaps things that you would be willing to put your life on the line for. But I'm just glad that, that he didn't lose his life. I'm glad that he didn't shoot somebody and then end up being booked on a murder charge. That certainly could have turned out to be a tragedy as well. When you have alleged criminal activity, the police are going to respond, right? So in a situation where, cops get called, so someone calls 911, they respond to a situation, they're going to do their initial investigation. So they're going to interview witnesses. They're going to look at surrounding businesses for surveillance video. They're going to take pictures. They're going to shoot video. So they're going to do all of their initial investigation. And then all of that information, so they're going to end up writing reports based on the statements that they get. So if they took any witness statements, made any observations, they're taking notes in the field. You sometimes see cops with their little notepads. So they're taking notes, and then those end up becoming a police report. And so the police reports and all that evidence end up getting turned over to the DA. And then there's going to be an issuing DA that's going to review the case. Generally, the police they're going to make a recommendation. They'll say, hey, I believe, or I booked this person on suspicion of DUI, or, of a drive-by shooting, of attempted murder, whatever the recommendation is. And a lot of times the DA will end up going with whatever the police's recommendation is. But, sometimes they may not, they may go with different charges. They may go with a mix of some of what the police recommended and some some of what they decide, or they may go with less. It just depends. But nonetheless, there are situations in which the police arrest somebody, but that doesn't exactly lead to criminal charges. So for somebody who is in custody, they would then have to go before a judge within a couple of days. But if the DA has not received the reports and made a decision after those couple of days, the person gets released, right? You have a right to be released. But there are times where the DA reviews such a case and then they say, hey, well, I need more information. I need more information. And they'll send it back to law enforcement for them to collect further information. Try and get me more video. Try and find me more witnesses. Dig into this. I need more information in order to make a decision to move forward or not, or reject the case. So that's where sometimes people feel like, okay, well, because the DA didn't file charges that, they're in the clear, nothing's going to happen. No, I mean, that could be the case. And ideally that would be the case for somebody. But if they're seeking further information, there are plenty of cases in which a person is released from custody because no charges are filed, and then the police do that additional investigation, get it over to the DA, and then that leads to charges being filed. So realistically, in this situation, Shawn Kemp is not yet in the clear, because again, if the DA is presented with evidence that in which they believe that there's a crime that they can prove having been committed beyond a reasonable doubt, then then they might file it. He was arrested. There's all these headlines about him being arrested on suspicion of a drive-by shooting, but it appears, at least based on what the lawyer has said, again, like, I haven't seen any videos floating around in terms of the actual shootout. I'll continue to look, but just appears that based on what the lawyer said, he was acting in self-defense. And so unless the police are able to find some information that indicates that perhaps he was not acting in self-defense, right? Because if there are other videos, there could be somebody who was standing there and watching the situation and recorded with their cell phone. That is such a huge way, and they can rule out suspects in that way as well. But that is a huge way that the police are able to put together the final pieces of their investigation, and that is by way of bystanders' cell phone footage. And so if it's discovered that Shawn Kemp rolled up and there wasn't a threat to his safety, if there's no reasonable position that he was in imminent danger of harm and thereby not justified in shooting, then that very well could revert back to the drive-by shooting or assault with a deadly weapon, negligent discharging of a firearm, any of those offenses that fall under that umbrella. So that's going to be the main issue. I think at this point, he's been released, and that's on some level an indication that the prosecutor's office doesn't believe that there's something that they currently could prove beyond a reasonable doubt. But again, if things change to where they don't believe that Shawn Kemp was acting in self-defense, then that's where he could end up with some sort of assault charge. So I definitely hope for his sake, his family's sake, and everybody in his life. First and foremost, again, just glad everyone's okay, nobody was hurt. But you'd like to hope that if any additional information comes out backing what the lawyer has already said, which is that he's acting in self-defense. But that's something we'll see.